Oh, there is no political solution to our troubled evolution. Have no faith in constitution. There is no bloody revolution. We are spirits in the material, our spirits in the material, our spirits in the material world. Our so-called leaders speak with words they try to jail ya. They subjugate the meek, but it's the rhetoric of failure. We are spirits in the material, our spirits in the material, our spirits in the material world. Where does the answer lie? Living from day to day. If it's something we can't buy, there must be another way. We are spirits in the material, our spirits in the material, our spirits in the material world. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Islam for Europeans. I'm your host, Robert. Do apologize, I haven't made a video in quite some time. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Um, so I want to dive into a little more of the political realm, especially since it's 2024 and we have the U.S. elections coming up. And you know when you look at how the American system is devised in terms of electing presidents, House representatives, state House representatives, senators, governors, it's what's called in political science a first past the post system, which means that whatever candidate receives the most votes, then they win, right? There's no second place, there's no runner-up prize, so you basically you win or you go home, right? So this has always been the kind of political process that the United States has had. And what a first past the post system does is that it basically um, it almost always narrows the field down to just two parties, right? And you can practically see all throughout its history, the United States has always been pretty much a two-party system, right? There used to be like the Democratic Republican Party, the Whig Party, but those parties, they died out, and another party took its place afterwards. Um, and when you look at third parties that have tried to offer an alternative to voters, normally they never get more than 5% of the vote, right? When you look at the history of third parties just in the last, say, 40 years, only three candidates have ever made a mark, really. The first is Ross Perot during the 1992 election, which Bill Clinton ended up winning. You have 2000, when Ralph Nader ran as the candidate for the Green Party, and he ended up getting about 3% of the vote. And many people on the political left, they criticize the fact that Nader even ran because he said they were taking away votes from Al Gore, and that's the reason why George Bush got elected. And then in 2016, we have Gary Johnson, who ran as the leader of the Libertarian Party. And I think at one point his popularity rating was at like 10%. But then he made that one gaffe about Aleppo, saying, what's Aleppo? And then his campaign was basically over, right? So he ended up receiving about 3 or 4% of the popular vote. So the whole problem with third parties in the U.S. is that well, first and foremost, the United States is a very vast, big, large, geographically large country. And, you need to raise an incredible amount of funds to get anywhere near to what the major two parties, get funded with. So that's an uphill battle. It's also a battle just to get your name on the ballot in certain states. They make you go through all these hoops if you're a third party, to get and just to get on the ballot. Yeah, and then on top of that, it's not like in Canada where you have a parliamentary electoral system where even if you don't win the election, if one of your candidates wins a seat in the House of Commons in one little geographical area, you still have a representative voice. Your party can get basic funding, more media coverage. This is why you see a three-party system in Canada where you have the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the NDP. Even though they never won an election, or I think have only been the official opposition once, they at least are able to exist as a party. But with the United States, you never see that. And I think one of the major reasons why is that these third wing political parties, they end up they have to take a position that's either ideologically left or ideologically right in one shape or form, you know, and this does two things. One is that the people on that side of the political spectrum, they're afraid to vote for that party because they think that the center right candidate or the center left candidate will not get elected. So a lot of them are they say it's a throwaway vote. You're actually voting for the enemy. So that's one issue. And then if you're on, let's say you're on, the other side of the political spectrum, but you agree strongly on one certain issue, you'll be more reluctant to vote for that party, just because they the people who represent that party may ideologically despise you, right? Um, and in 2024, we're at a time where never before in history have you seen a single issue that has galvanized the entire country. Um, so, and one would think, this is the perfect opportunity for a political party to emerge, to be a representative voice for those people. But the fact of the matter is, you're going to have so many of these parties jockeying for position that they're just going to end up eating each other. And I can't see, let alone winning, an election or even a state house seat or a U.S. House of Representative seat is going to be exceedingly difficult. Or just even like a small goal. Like I think if you get like 5% of the popular vote in a U.S. election, your party gets like basic funding. So let's take the third and fourth largest uh, federal political parties in the United States, the Greens and the Libertarians. Now, both of these small parties, have taken a principled stance on, the ongoing crisis, and from the very get-go, right? Now, the Libertarians, let's take the Libertarians, for example. In 2016, they were the third largest political party in the United States. Gary Johnson defeated Jill Stein, I think, in every single U.S. state. He got more votes than her. But the problem with the Libertarians is that they are basically persona non grata, in these political protests that you're seeing. Because they're the people who are organizing these protests tend to lean very left politically, right? So, for them to include a pro-capitalist, candidate, even if they're anti-war, that they're just not present. And like libertarians, I'm sure individually they show up at, they may show up at these protests, but as a block candidate, they're never going to invite like a potential candidate to even appear as a speaker, for one of these events. So that makes garnering votes on the libertarian side very difficult to happen, if not impossible. Right. So I can't, and and on top of that, they don't really have like a political candidate of any clout. That's the other thing. It's very difficult for them to find even celebrity candidates that have a large base. Even with all the technology in 2024, to present like an alternative position, to the two major parties. And then one would think, well, the Green Party, they're going to get a lot of votes because they're the third or fourth largest political party in the states. They've taken a principled stance on the genocide, from the very get-go. But the problem with that is that there's more than one political party and voice that is on the left that is running for president. Okay, so the Green Party has Jill Stein. And again, the Green Party is very left wing. Ideologically speaking, right? But even more to the left is Claudia Dela Cruz, of the Socialist Party, and Cornel West, who are both running as political candidates as well. So, all these three candidates are going to just, suck votes off of each other, because there's all these these kind of ideological differences even on the political left wing, right? uh, you know And then you have other small parties as well, but they're not even on the map. Like I can't see them getting more than 100,000 votes, or even close to, 0.1 of a percentage point, right? And I can't see, the Greens and Libertarians forming any kind of, political alliance. I can't see that happening. So, it just goes back to, and I quoted Sting at the beginning of this video, and that there really is no political solution. And, sometimes we, um, as Muslims, this is just human nature. We take ourselves away from, the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and thinking that politics are going to, solve all of our problems. Right now, I'm not here to argue about the fiqh of politics. You have Muslims who are saying, like it's completely haram, to vote. Others are saying that, like sometimes it's fard to vote, and everywhere in between. I'm not here to argue that. I'm not an alim. I'm not a faqih. So, like it's not my place to say that. But what I will say is that, um, if we're looking for, political solutions, I can't see any type of candidate that is going to represent the people at the end of the day, because the people are so politically divided, and because it's such an uphill battle to get any type of media recognition, even with all of the social media at our disposal. Um, then you have, the Muslim vote, and like there's certain things we could talk about with that. Like for example, there's a lot of Muslims who, especially on conservative Muslims, who don't vote. Right now, I asked, like, who should Muslims be voting for? American Muslims be voting for in the next election, as as a Twitter poll. About a quarter of them said Donald Trump. And I'll get into Trump a little bit later, but a whopping like 63% said nobody. Because like the positions that all of these people on the left are taking is in many ways very incompatible, for us as Muslims, theologically speaking. So that becomes very difficult to vote for any type of candidate on the political left, and even on the political right. Like there's many, like take for example the Libertarian Party. There's many points that we disagree with as well. So it's like when you look at the whole spectrum and the way the U.S. system is devised, they say that they're a democracy, but at the end of the day, when you have a system set up as this, where you have two political parties that are now pretty much indistinguishable from each other. I mean, you could talk about, maybe Trump will be better than Biden at the end of the day, but this happens every 4 or 8 years. We think, well, these people were absolutely evil, so let's vote these people in, and then they become even worse, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So, I don't think that that it's going to solve, the political solutions of the day. Like and really, when you focus so much on politics, right, it can really start to take away from your spirituality. And I feel it too, and I say this first and foremost to myself. Like it it can really take away from salah. It can really take away from recitation of the Quran. And with Ramadan coming up, like I mean, there's only so much stock we can place in it. Now, is political action, does it affect some change? Absolutely. Like there's many ways you can affect political action, legal ways, petitions, protests, dialogue, things of that nature. So those things are important. Like it's not that there's no utility in it, right? But if you're placing all of your eggs in one basket in terms of thinking that political reform is going to change the game, like it's far more complicated than that. And really, like dua, like supplicating, to our Creator, um, that has enormous, like at the end of the day, Allah is in control of everything, and He has, only He has the ability, to affect change. He's the doer of all that He intends, right? And dua is the one thing that like can change qadr. Like it doesn't, qadr is a very complicated issue, and qadr basically means in Arabic is one of the principles of Islam. meaning divine predestination, meaning that God has already written everything that will happen, right? And we, um, we're divinely predestined for that. But it doesn't mean we don't have accountability, because we can still supplicate to Him. We can make dua. We can ask Him to change, to change things, right? And and if He wills, if God wills, inshallah, He has the ability to control all things and to change things as He wills, right? So, um, it's just some important things, to keep in mind. It's a good reminder. I didn't want to make this, a totally religious episode. This is more about, the political systems and the way they're designed in the West. But I am not a fan of Trump, nor am I a fan of Biden. Um, I would never. I'm half American, but I don't have, U.S. U.S. residency. So, if I had the opportunity to vote, I would not vote for either major party. Um, yeah, and then the other thing that this whole political system does that a lot of people don't talk about is that people outside of these countries, whether it's in the Muslim world or Latin America or East Asia, they get this false perception that the people in the governments who are doing these things, that the people agree with them. The standard adage is, well, they voted them in, and it's their responsibility. I mean, that's not really true, because they campaign on these particular platforms, and they promise all these changes, um, and people voted them in good faith, because they don't want to see another person get in that has been treating them horribly for the last 4 years. So you're being lied to, and they end up taking positions that are completely contrary to what you thought. Now, does that mean there's no accountability at the end of the day? No. I mean, the people at the end of the day, there's other parties to vote for. You can work on gaining support for parties that affect your positions. Um, but from an outsider's perspective, it makes people think that everybody thinks this way, because they all voted them in. I mean, even George W. Bush, in the 2000 election, a lot of people don't realize this, but the majority of Muslims voted for George W. Bush in 2000, right? Because he was more kind of pro, like Arab, pro Saudi oil money and stuff, and more conservative in like his religious beliefs, and social beliefs and things like that. So that just goes to show you that you can't really look at the elected officials of a country and think to yourself, this is what the majority of these people believe. Um, it's unfortunate, it's sad, but again, this is the world that we live in. So let me know what you think in the chat. And like I said, I quoted "Spirits in the Material World" by Sting. I thought it was a perfect fit, because like if you read through the lyrics, it's about how it's actually based off the works of Arthur Kessler, that like we are basically spirits, right? And then these machines are, they're changing and affecting us, and poisoning our spirit. Um, so it's not that like we can't work within that machine and change things, but at the end of the day, it's not the be all and end all, and it's not. There's like he said, there is no political solution to our troubled evolution. So I think that we've tried the absolute political realm by thinking that politics are going to, at the end of the day, change things for the better in a great way. And it just it ends up being fruitless, because we're not focused on fixing what's in ourselves first. Becoming better Muslims, being more honest, thinking about God, praying more, fasting more, giving and charity more, um, and just trying to be the best Muslim that you can be. I think that's like if we change what's in our law will not change what is in law will not change the status of a people and still until we change the status of our own souls. So that's a good take-home message. Again, it's first and foremost for myself. But like I just thought I would talk about the political situation in the meantime. And this, I just talked about the states, but this is across the Western world. Like it's very difficult to find a political solution. When all you're focused on is politics. So that's my time for the day. Thank you very much for subscribing to Islam for Europeans. I'm your host Robert. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.